Kazakhstan, the world's largest producer of uranium, is at crossroads. The country is considering building its first nuclear power plant, despite the debates about energy security and political dynamics. The country will now hold a referendum to decide who will build the plant, Russia or the West.
The country has vast potential for developing the nuclear energy sector. It is important to use it in a correct and effective way. The people will have the final say.
Kazakhstan is also trying to get international support for the power plant. The Central Asian nation has so far agreed to cooperate with South Korea in energy exploration. And authorities have called on Korean companies to participate in energy infrastructure projects. Kazakhstan is also exploring reactor technologies from France, China, and Russia. This project, estimated to cost more than $5 billion per unit, aims to involve an international pool of investors.
Economic development is impossible without a stable energy supply. That's why I gave instructions on studying the construction of a nuclear power plant. Currently, there are broad discussions and different opinions are voiced.
Meanwhile, Kazakhstan had the highest uranium production in the world in 2022. It accounted for 43% of global output. This boosts the economy and attracts significant foreign investments. Economists say it also strengthens Kazakhstan's role in the global energy market. With Kazakhstan leading in uranium production, the country's strategic moves in nuclear energy are likely to attract more investments. And this is set to enhance its economy and regional influence. Lara Kilicarslan, TRT World.
Let's get more on this now with Seijiro Takeshita, Professor at the School of Management and Information at the University of Shizuoka. Thanks for joining us, Professor. Now, with Kazakhstan leading global uranium production, what has led to the shift towards nuclear energy and how could it influence regional energy security and geopolitical dynamics?
Well, actually, the move toward regression of nuclear power is not only unique in this area, but around the world, actually. You look at Europe, and particularly because of the environmental problem, and also this volatility that we're getting from the oil price is basically causing a lot of inflation in many areas. Japan, who basically have a very strong resistance against increase of nuclear power, even they are thinking about increasing the current ratio of nuclear from 5% to 20% in 2030. So what we're seeing here is a regression of establishment of many of these nuclear powers in order to mitigate the volatility that we're seeing from the oil, as well as sustaining the environmental issue as well.
Right, and how could the decision to build its first nuclear power plant benefit the Kazakh economy?
Well, it would obviously benefit very much in the sense that, as you just reported, it has half the production, virtually half the production of uranium, but they also have a very abundant oil and gas. And all these things are attracting not only the previous Russians, but particularly the Americans and also the Chinese. They're becoming like the typical beneficiary of Transaction 25, which does not belong to the unitarian state, nor does it to the free world, but trying to benefit both sides in creating the infrastructure. So it's very easy to understand that Kazakhstan is basically trying to get the benefit from both sides, from the unitarian state as well as the free world, in order to, well, get their economy going. But I think there's a worry, especially considering that there's a lot of internal problem within Kazakhstan, which could create a lot of negative issues and worries about creating a nuclear generator there in that country.
Right, and it also comes down to who invests in this project. How could the involvement of international investors in nuclear power shape the energy infrastructure and economic development strategies globally and within this region?
Well, one of the biggest issue, as you just reported, is the investment coming from around the world, particularly from the Americans and the Chinese, who are trying to gain the hegemony, in the background. And obviously, they want to get a pie or a connection with a country that has half the provision of uranium. That's pretty obvious. But I think at the same time, I think it's also dangerous not to consider the country risk involved. Let's not forget what happened 3 years ago when there was an uprising. You see the Russians basically Mr. Putin trying to get a hold of control of this country. So, there's a lot of geopolitical issues that would get involved, in this issue. And like any investment to, virtual unitarian governed state, there is always a danger of country risk that the investors really have to think about.